What's up guys, this is MacController here, and today I'll be talking about why paid DLC isn't that bad and why potentially it could help save the gaming industry. First off, before you get your torches and pitchforks, let me explain. Let's go back a decade and see what video games used to look like. Normally video games came out complete, which is something we took for granted. And games that did amazing, whether it was critically or via the fans wanted DLC was then added to the game afterwards. Whether it was a map pack or an expansion, that feels like they wanted to add more content. Nowadays, video games barely come out complete if they don't come out completely broken. Video game developers plan the DLC before the game even comes out, mainly because they figure that they're gonna make the DLC is gonna be released anyways. Either way, microtransactions have been in video games for a long time, so it's kind of hard to remember a time when they weren't in video games. Free to play video games are the only video games I personally feel get an exemption to the fact that there's paid DLC, there's microtransactions in a free to play video game. In free-to-play games, they don't have a choice, but that's an entirely different topic for another video. And so, the reason I feel DLC could potentially save the video game industry is that devs would focus more on the game being finished at launch, which means we would have less situations of Cyberpunk 2077, Saints Row 2022, Agents of Mayhem, half the COD games, Halo MCC. All these are video games that at launch were broken or messed up, and the developers ended up having to fix them later anyways, which just creates a whole new problem of that the video game developers aren't even trying to make sure the games are finished, which is not entirely on them. Part of it has to do with the developers or the publishers pushing to have a game released within a certain quarter so they can sell so many copies. And so one of the reasons I feel that we probably may not see paid DLC make quite the comeback that it had back in the day is that back about a decade ago, every video game company was vilifying the idea of paid DLC, being like, paid DLC splits the community. But if you let us put these microtransactions in our video games, then we don't have to make paid DLC. Or there's no paid DLC. It's all free because you all are paying for the microtransactions. To the point where nowadays, if you even say that you are okay with the idea of paid DLC, you have people looking at you like you're crazy because they're like, well, it splits the community. Are you okay with splitting the community? And I personally feel on that topic that in a way, sometimes yes, having the community split is a good thing, because you have the people that have the paid DLC and they love the game and pay for those DLCs, and so sometimes it's just some map packs for online multiplayer, or it's a story expansion that can be could be essential. But again, if you're really a fan of that franchise, you will pay for that paid DLC. My belief is personally a community that is split up but has their back, has the back of a video game that is good, a video game that's finished, has good quality, it's not a terrible video game. A community in that game being split is 100% better than having the community united but backing a game that is broken or filled with microtransactions that causes some fans to not get to enjoy the game quite as much, especially when you have people that drop hundreds of dollars on microtransactions in a multiplayer setting. Now, one of the things about paid DLC I really noticed it looking back is that paid DLC really was never that like super expensive. Like, yeah, there were some expansions that were like $20, but you got like a full like worth of, oh, this is a complete like expansion. I'm getting like hours of gameplay out of this, and it was like, for that it was worth it. But most of the time, paid DLC, whether it was like a skin in like a superhero game or if it was like a new map pack, was typically pretty affordable for most people to afford. And that's why I personally feel that honestly paid DLC should never have gone away like it did. Now, the other main reason I feel that paid DLC won't make quite the comeback that it did have before is that developers have found out they can make the same amount of money easier by using microtransactions, because microtransactions just mean that you are over and over and over again going to put repetitive things like a loot box or like virtual currency used to buy an item in game. They realize that they can make that, instead of having to make something fully complete, something that genuinely like someone is like, okay, I'm fine with paying like $20 for that expansion pack, because they've realized that they can get away with doing less. And it's one of those things where if they're doing less to make the microtransactions, like, it sort of makes sense from their point of view. It's easier to do that, so for them it makes sense. But for us, the consumer, like, making microtransactions replace the role that paid DLC has held for so long isn't the greatest, because especially in games where the microtransactions affect like online multiplayer, like with actual like performance stuff, is not good. Like, it ruins the flow of the gameplay of that game to the point that people don't want to play that game. And there, like, I've heard the logic, if you don't like it, don't use it. Well, the problem is, one person not using a microtransaction doesn't stop the rest of everyone else from using them. Everyone else will still use the microtransactions because it gives them that advantage. And the fact that companies take advantage of being like, oh, well, we put microtransactions in so that you guys don't have to do paid DLC. Whereas, like, microtransactions are paid DLC on any marketplace thing, whether it's PlayStation Store, the Xbox Store, or Steam, or any like Epic Games or any of that. Any microtransaction pops up as downloadable content, but it's just downloadable content you can purchase over and over again. Whether it's like a skin or a loot pack, or if it's virtual currency, which 9 times out of 10 it is, because spending a virtual currency is a lot easier than spending real money, because in your head you're like, oh, well, I just spent like 1,500 V-Bucks, it's okay. Whereas, like, if you're like, oh, I spent like $10, oh my god, I just spent $10 on a skin for a game. And it's one of those things where hearing the argument, oh, well, the microtransactions make up for paid DLC and prevent us from having it, when it's like, no, it doesn't. It's like the paid DLC is those microtransactions. And 9 times out of 10 with some of these games, the content we're getting is things that should have been in the game from launch. Like, for example, Halo 5, Infection was a quote-unquote DLC update, which previous Halo games have had, and it's worked a lot better than it did in Halo 5. But obviously people don't look at it as, oh, well, we didn't have to pay for that DLC. No, it wasn't that you didn't have to pay for that DLC, it's just that you paid for that DLC with the microtransaction system, which in some ways can compromise the game as much as it can help the game. Like, when you have a microtransaction system, it compromises that game's like formula of how it works. Like Halo, gameplay. I feel like 343 has really kind of messed with the formula of what Halo used to be like, to the point where I don't think Halo could ever truly go back to being what it was or close to it. Infinite's not a terrible game, but it just doesn't feel like old school Halo. It feels like Halo 5, but instead of doing the rack packs, they make all the cosmetics in the Spartan store, where you have to buy the credits. But with that, I would like to hear y'all's opinions, see what y'all feel. I hope y'all enjoyed that video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe for more content like this. I'll see you in the next video. Peace out, squad.